present, past, future. Clap, clap. Will clap. Clean, cleaned. Will clean. Close, closed. Will close. Color, colored. Will color. Come, came. Will come. Cry, cried. Will cry. Dance, danced. Will dance. Draw, drew. Will draw. Drink, drank. Will drink. Eat, ate. Will eat. Present, past, future. Go, went. Will go. Help, help. Will help. Hug, hugged. Will hug. Jump, jump. Will jump. Kiss, kissed. Will kiss. Laugh, laugh. Will laugh. Listen, listened. Will listen. Look, looked. Will look. Love, love. Will love. Open, opened. Will open. Present, past, future. Play, played. Will play. Read, read. Will read. Run, ran. Will run. See, saw. Will see. Sing, sang. Will sing. Sit, sat. Will sit. Sleep, slept. Will sleep. Smile, smiled. Will smile. Stand, stood. Will stand. Stop, stop. Will stop. Present, past, future. Taught, taught. Will taught. Walk, walk. Will walk. Wash, washed. Will wash. Write, wrote. Will write. Present, past, future. Ask, ask. Will ask. Call, called. Will call. Climb, climbed. Will climb. Cook, cooked. Will cook. Give, gave. Will give. Kick, kicked. Will kick. Make, made. Will make. Pull, pulled. Will pull. Push, pushed. Will push. Sing, sang. will sing. Present, past, future. Act, acted, will act. Add, added, will add. Bait, bait, will bait. Bart, bart, will bart. Bathe, bathe, will bathe. Begin, began, will begin. Bend, bent, will bend. Bite, bit, will bite. Blow, blew, will blow. Boil, boiled, will boil. Break, broke, will break. Bring, brought, will bring. Brush, brushed, will brush. Build, built, will build. Burn, burned, will burn. Buy, bought, will buy. Carry, carried, will carry. Present, past, future. Catch, caught, will catch. Chew, chewed, will chew. Comb, combed, will comb. Copy, copied, will copy. Count, counted, will count. Count, counted, will count. Dig, dug, will dig. Dive, dive, will dive. Do, did, will do. Sing, sang, will sing. Present, past, future. Drive, drove, will drive. Drop, drop, will drop. Enter, entered, will enter. Fall, fell, will fall. Feed, fed, will feed. Feel, felt, will feel. Fight, fought, will fight. Fill, filled, will fill. Find, found, will find. Fix, fixed, will fix. Present, past, future. Love, love, will love. Make, made, will make. Meet, met, will meet. Mix, mixed, will mix. Move, moved, will move. Need, needed, will need, open, opened, will open, pack, pack, will pack, paint, painted, will paint, pay, paid, will pay, present, past, future, pick, picked, will pick, plant, planted, will plant, play, played, will play, pull, pulled, will pull, push, push, will push, put, put, will put, rain, rained, will rain, read, read, will read, ride, road, will ride, run, ran, will run, present, past, future, meet, met, will meet, mix, mixed, will mix, move, moved, will move, need, needed, will need, pack, pack, will pack, paint, painted, will paint, pay, paid, will pay, pick, picked, will pick, plant, planted, will plant, put, put, will put, present, past, future, rain, rained, will rain, ride, road, will ride, answer, answered, will answer, change, changed, will change, chase, chased, will chase, cheat, cheated, will cheat, check, check, will check, choose, chose, will choose, finish, finished, will finish, follow, followed, will follow, present, past, future, forget, forgot, will forget, guess, guessed, will guess, hang, hung, will hang, hate, hated, will hate, have, had, will have, hurt, hurt, will hurt, ignore, ignored, will ignore, kill, killed, will kill, lie, lay, will lie, miss, missed, will miss, present, past, future, accept, accepted, will accept, admire, admired, will admire, admit, admitted, will admit, agree, agreed, will agree, allow, allowed, will allow, appear, appeared, will appear, argue, argued, will argue, arrive, arrive, will arrive, attack, attacked, will attack, become, became, will become, present, past, future, beg, begged, will beg, behave, behaved, will behave, bleed, bled, will bleed, borrow, borrowed, will borrow, care, cared, will care, collect, collected, will collect, complain, complained, will complain, complete, completed, will complete, decide, decided, will decide, decorate, decorated, will decorate, present, past, future, describe, describe, will describe, destroy, destroyed, will destroy, divide, divided, will divide, dry, dried, will dry, earn, earned, will earn, enjoy, enjoyed, will enjoy, escape, escape, will escape, explain, explained, will explain, fail, failed, will fail, fear, feared, will fear, present, past, future, forgive, forgave, will forgive, freeze, froze, will freeze, fry, fried, will fry, guide, guided, will guide, achieve, achieve, will achieve, advise, advised, will advise, announce, announced, will announce, apologize, apologized, will apologize, applaud, applauded, will applaud, arrange, arranged, will arrange, present, past, future, attend, attended, will attend, avoid, avoided, will avoid, await, awoke, will await, believe, believe, will believe, breathe, breathe, will breathe, burst, burst, will burst, calculate, calculated, will calculate, celebrate, celebrated, will celebrate, compare, compared, will compare, connect, connected, will connect, present, past, future, create, created, will create, damage, damaged, will damage, deal, dealt, will deal, discover, discovered, will discover, discuss, discussed, will discuss, examine, examined, will examine, exercise, exercised, will exercise, explore, explored, will explore, gather, gathered, will gather, imagine, imagined, will imagine, present, past, future, improve, improve, will improve, invent, invented, will invent, invite, invited, will invite, join, joined, will join, led, led, will lead, manage, managed, will manage, measure, measured, will measure, memorize, memorized, will memorize, mention, mentioned, will mention, mistake, mistook, will mistake, present, past, future, analyze, analyzed, will analyze, appreciate, appreciated, will appreciate, approach, approached, will approach, approve, approve, will approve, arrest, arrested, will arrest, attach, attached, will attach, attempt, attempted, will attempt, attract, attracted, will attract, beat, beat, will beat, belong, belonged, will belong, present, past, future, Bet. Bet. Will bet. Bless. Bless. Will bless. Blind. Blinded. Will blind. Blink. Blinked. Will blink. Blot. Blocked. Will blot. Blush. Blush. Will blush. Bounce. Bounce. Will bounce. Bow. Bowed. Will bow. Broadcast. Broadcast. Will broadcast. Bury. Buried. Will bury. Present. Past. Future. Buzz. Buzz. Will buzz. Camp. Camp. Will camp. Carve. Carve. Will carve. Coos. Coosed. Will cause. Challenge. Challenged. Will challenge. Charge. Charge. Will charge. Cheer. Cheered. Will cheer. Choke. Choke. Will choke. Chop. Chop. Will chop. Claim. Claimed. Will claim. Present. Past. Future. Clear. Cleared. Will clear. Clip. Clip. Will clip. Coach. Coach. Will coach. Comfort. Comforted. Will comfort. Command. Commanded. Will command. Communicate. Communicated. Will communicate. Compete. Competed. Will compete. Concentrate. Concentrated. Will concentrate. Concern. Concerned. Will concern. Confess. Confess. Will confess. Present. Past. Future. Confuse. Confused. Will confuse. Adopt. Adopted. Will adopt. Apply. Applied. Will apply. Balance. Balance. Will balance. Ban. Banned. Will ban. Bang. Banged. Will bang. Battle. Battled. Will battle. Be. Was/were. Will be. Beam. Beamed. Will beam. Bear. Bore. Will bear. Present. Past. Future. Bind. Bound. Will bind. Boast. Boasted. Will boast. Chat. chatted, will chat, commit, committed, will commit, consider, considered, will consider, consist, consisted, will consist, contain, contained, will contain, continue, continued, will continue, control, controlled, will control, correct, corrected, will correct, present, past, future, cost, cost, will cost, cough, cough, will cough, cover, covered, will cover, crack, crack, will crack, crash, crashed, will crash, crawl, crawled, will crawl, creep, crap, will creep, cross, crossed, will cross, crush, crushed, will crush, cure, cured, will cure, present, past, future, curve, curve, will curve, cycle, cycled, will cycle, dare, dared, will dare, decay, decayed, will decay, delay, delayed, will delay, deliver, delivered, will deliver, depend, depended, will depend, desert, deserted, will desert, deserve, deserve, will deserve, detect, detected, will detect, present, past, future, develop, develop, will develop, disagree, disagreed, will disagree, disappear, disappeared, will disappear, disapprove, disapprove, will disapprove, dislike, disliked, will dislike, double, doubled, will double, doubt, doubted, will doubt, drag, dragged, will drag, drain, drained, will drain, dress, dressed, will dress, present, past, future, drip, drip, will drip, drown, drowned, will drown, drum, drummed, will drum, dust, dusted, will dust, educate, educated, will educate, employ, employed, will employ, empty, emptied, will empty, encourage, encouraged, will encourage, end, ended, will end, entertain, entertained, will entertain, present, past, future, excite, excited, will excite, excuse, excused, will excuse, exist, existed, will exist, expand, expanded, will expand, elect, elected, will elect, embarrass, embarrassed, will embarrass, estimate, estimated, will estimate, evaporate, evaporated, will evaporate, exchange, exchanged, will exchange, expect, expected, will expect, present, past, future, explode, exploded, will explode, express, express, will express, extend, extended, will extend, face, face, will face, fade, faded, will fade, faint, fainted, will faint, fasten, fastened, will fasten, fertilize, fertilized, will fertilize, fetch, fetch, will fetch, film, filmed, will film, present, past, future, fire, fired, will fire, fit, fit/fitted, will fit, flash, flash, will flash, flee, fled, will flee, float, floated, will float, flood, flooded, will flood, flow, flowed, will flow, force, force, will force, form, formed, will form, found, founded, will found, present, past, future, frame, framed, will frame, frighten, frightened, will frighten, gain, gained, will gain, gaze, gazed, will gaze, generate, generated, will generate, glare, glared, will glare, glow, glowed, will glow, glue, glued, will glue, govern, governed, will govern, grab, grab, will grab, present, past, future, grade, graded, will grade, grant, granted, will grant, grasp, grasp, will grasp, greet, greeted, will greet, grin, grinned, will grin, grind, ground, will grind, grip, grip, will grip, groan, groaned, will groan, guard, guarded, will guard, hammer, hammered, will hammer, present, past, future, handle, handled, will handle, happen, happened, will happen, harm, harmed, will harm, haunt, haunted, will haunt, heal, healed, will heal, heat, heated, will heat, hesitate, hesitated, will hesitate, hook, hooked, will hook, hum, hummed, will hum, hurry, hurried, will hurry, present, past, future, identify, identified, will identify, impress, impressed, will impress, include, included, will include, increase, increase, will increase, influence, influenced, will influence, inform, informed, will inform, inject, injected, will inject, injure, injured, will injure, inspect, inspected, will inspect, instruct, instructed, will instruct, present, past, future, intend, intended, will intend, interest, interested, will interest, interfere, interfered, will interfere, interrupt, interrupted, will interrupt, introduce, introduced, will introduce, irritate, irritated, will irritate, itch, itch, will itch, jam, jammed, will jam, jog, jog, will jog, joke, joke, will Joe, present, past, future, judge, judged, will judge, juggle, juggled, will juggle, justify, justified, will justify, kneel, knelt, will kneel, knit, knitted, will knit, knock, knock, will knock, knot, knotted, will not, label, labeled, will label, land, landed, will land, last, lasted, will last, present, past, future. 391, launch, launched, will launch. 392, lay, to put, laid, will lay. 393, lean, leaned, will lean. 394, leap, leap/lap, will leap. 395, lend, lent, will lend. 396, let, let, will let. 397, lie, to rest, lay, will lie. 398, lie, untruth, lied, will lie. 399, light, lit, will light. 400, limit, limited, will limit. Present, past, future, list, listed, will list, load, loaded, will load, lock, locked, will lock, lower, lowered, will lower. Magnify, magnified, will magnify. Maintain, maintained, will maintain. March, march, will march. Mark, mark, will mark. Marry, married, will marry. Match, match, will match. Present, past, future. Matter, mattered, will matter. Mean, meant, will mean. Melt, melted, will melt. Mend, mended, will mend. Mess, mess, will mess. Migrate, migrated, will migrate. Melt, milked, will melt. Mind, minded, will mind. Moan, moaned, will moan. Modify, modified, will modify. Present, past, future, multiply, multiplied, will multiply, mumble, mumbled, will mumble, murder, murdered, will murder, mutter, muttered, will mutter, nag, nag, will nag, nail, nailed, will nail, name, named, will name, nap, nap, will nap, neglect, neglected, will neglect, nest, nested, will nest, present, past, future, nod, nodded, will nod, note, noted, will note, notice, notice, will notice, number, numbered, will number, nurse, nurse, will nurse, obey, obeyed, will obey, object, objected, will object, observe, observe, will observe, obtain, obtained, will obtain, occupy, occupied, will occupy, present, past, future, occur, occurred, will occur, offend, offended, will offend, offer, offered, will offer, operate, operated, will operate, order, ordered, will order, organize, organized, will organize, overcome, overcame, will overcome, owe, owed, will owe, own, owned, will own, panic, panicked, will panic, present, past, future, part, part, will part, part, parted, will part, pass, past, will pass, paste, pasted, will paste, pat, patted, will pat, pause, paused, will pause, pack, pack, will pack, peel, peeled, will peel, peep, peep, will peep, perform, performed, will perform, present, past, future, permit, permitted, will permit, persuade, persuaded, will persuade, phone, phoned, will phone, pinch, pinch, will pinch, place, place, will place, plan, planned, will plan, please, pleased, will please, plug, plug, will plug, point, pointed, will point, Polish, polished, will Polish, present, past, future, pollute, polluted, will pollute, pop, pop, will pop, possess, possess, will possess, post, posted, will post, pour, poured, will pour, practice, practice, will practice, praise, praised, will praise, pray, prayed, will pray, preach, preached, will preach, prefer, preferred, will prefer, present, past, future, prepare, prepared, will prepare, present, presented, will present, preserve, preserve, will preserve, press, press, will press, pretend, pretended, will pretend, prevent, prevented, will prevent, prick, pricked, will prick, print, printed, will print, produce, produced, will produce, program, programmed, will program, present, past, future, promise, promised, will promise, protect, protected, will protect, protest, protested, will protest, provide, provided, will provide, pump, pump, will pump, punch, punch, will punch, punish, punish, will punish, puzzle, puzzled, will puzzle, qualify, qualified, will qualify, quarrel, quarreled, will quarrel, present, past, future, question, questioned, will question, cue, cued, will cue, quit, quit, will quit, quiz, quiz, will quiz, race, race, will race, raise, raised, will raise, reach, reach, will reach, realize, realize, will realize, receive, receive, will receive, recognize, recognize, will recognize, present, past, future, record, recorded, will record, reduce, reduce, will reduce, reflect, reflected, will reflect, refuse, refused, will refuse, regret, regretted, will regret, reject, rejected, will reject, relax, relaxed, will relax, release, released, will release, rely, relied, will rely, remain, remained, will remain, present, past, future, remember, remembered, will remember, remind, reminded, will remind, remove, remove, will remove, repair, repaired, will repair, repeat, repeated, will repeat, replace, replaced, will replace, reply, replied, will reply, report, reported, will report, request, requested, will request, rescue, rescued, will rescue, present, past, future, respect, respected, will respect, rest, rested, will rest, retire, retired, will retire, return, returned, will return, reuse, reused, will reuse, review, reviewed, will review, rhyme, rhymed, will rhyme, ring, rang, will ring, rise, rose, will rise, risk, risk, will risk, present, past, future, roar, roared, will roar, rob, rob, will rob, rot, rot, will rot, roll, rolled, will roll, rot, rotted, will rot, rub, rubbed, will rub, ruin, ruined, will ruin, rule, ruled, will rule, rush, rushed, will rush, sack, sack, will sack, present, past, future, sail, sailed, will sail, satisfy, satisfied, will satisfy, save, saved, will save, saw, sawed, will saw, say, said, will say, scare, scared, will scare, scatter, scattered, will scatter, scold, scolded, will scold, scratch, scratch, will scratch, scream, screamed, will scream, present, past, future, screw, screwed, will screw, scrub, scrubbed, will scrub, search, search, will search, seek, sought, will seek, select, selected, will select, sell, sold, will sell, send, sent, will send, separate, separated, will separate, serve, serve, will serve, set, set, will set, present, past, future, settle, settled, will settle, sow, sowed, will sow, shade, shaded, will shade, shake, shook, will shake, shape, shape, will shape, share, shared, will share, shave, shave, will shave, shine, shone, will shine, shiver, shivered, will shiver, shock, shock, will shock, present, past, future, shoot, shot, will shoot, shop, shop, will shop, shorten, shortened, will shorten, shout, shouted, will shout, show, showed, will show, shrink, shrank, will shrink, shut, shut, will shut, sign, signed, will sign, signal, signaled, will signal, sin, sinned, will sin, present, past, future, sink, sank, will sink, sip, sip, will sip, skate, skated, will skate, ski, skied, will ski, skip, skip, will skip, slam, slammed, will slam, slap, slap, will slap, slide, slid, will slide, slip, slip, will slip, smash, smash, will smash, present, past, future, smell, smelled, will smell, smoke, smoke, will smoke, snap, snap, will snap, sneeze, sneezed, will sneeze, snore, snored, will snore, snow, snowed, will snow, soak, soaked, will soak, sob, sob, will sob, solve, solve, will solve, sort, sorted, will sort, present, past, future, sound, sounded, will sound, speak, spoke, will speak, speed, sped, will speed, spell, spelled, will spell, spend, spent, will spend, spill, spilled, will spill, spin, spun, will spin, spit, spat, will spit, split, split, will split, spoil, spoiled, will spoil, present, past, future, spot, spotted, will spot, spray, sprayed, will spray, spread, spread, will spread, spring, sprang, will spring, sprinkle, sprinkled, will sprinkle, squeeze, squeezed, will squeeze, stamp, stamp, will stamp, stare, stared, will stare, start, started, will start, starve, starve, will starve, present, past, future, stay, stayed, will stay, steal, stole, will steal, step, step, will step, stick, stuck, will stick, sting, stung, will sting, stir, stirred, will stir, stitch, stitched, will stitch, store, stored, will store, stretch, stretched, will stretch, strike, struck, will strike, present, past, future, study, studied, will study, subtract, subtracted, will subtract, succeed, succeeded, will succeed, suffer, suffered, will suffer, suggest, suggested, will suggest, supply, supplied, will supply, support, supported, will support, suppose, supposed, will suppose, surprise, surprised, will surprise, surround, surrounded, will surround, present, past, future, suspect, suspected, will suspect, swallow, swallowed, will swallow, swap, swap, will swap, swear, swore, will swear, sweep, swept, will sweep, swim, swam, will swim, swing, swung, will swing, switch, switched, will switch, table, tabled, will table, tackle, tackled, will tackle, present, past, future, tag, tagged, will tag, tail, tailed, will tail, take, took, will take, tame, tamed, will tame, tap, tap, will tap, tape, tape, will tape, taste, tasted, will taste, tax, taxed, will tax, teach, taught, will teach, tear, tore, will tear, present, past, future, tease, teased, will tease, telephone, telephoned, will telephone, tell, told, will tell, tempt, tempted, will tempt, terrify, terrified, will terrify, test, tested, will test, faint, faint, will faint, thaw, thawed, will thaw, think, thought, will think, threaten, threatened, will threaten, present, past, future, throw, through, will throw, tick, ticked, will tick, tickle, tickled, will tickle, tie, tied, will tie, time, timed, will time, tip, tip, will tip, tire, tired, will tire, touch, touch, will touch, tour, toured, will tour, tow, towed, will tow, present, past, future, trace, traced, will trace, trade, traded, will trade, train, trained, will train, transfer, transferred, will transfer, translate, translated, will translate, transport, transported, will transport, trap, trap, will trap, travel, traveled, will travel, treat, treated, will treat, tremble, trembled, will tremble, present, past, future, trick, tricked, will trick, trip, trip, will trip, trot, trotted, will trot, trouble, troubled, will trouble, trust, trusted, will trust, try, tried, will try, tug, tug, will tug, tumble, tumbled, will tumble, turn, turned, will turn, twist, twisted, will twist, present, past, future, type, type, will type, undress, undressed, will undress, unfasten, unfastened, will unfasten, unite, united, will unite, unlock, unlock, will unlock, unpack, unpacked, will unpack, untidy, untidied, will untidy, update, updated, will update, upset, upset, will upset, urge, urge, will urge, present, past, future, use, used, will use, value, valued, will value, vanish, vanish, will vanish, vary, varied, will vary, verify, verified, will verify, view, viewed, will view, visit, visited, will visit, volunteer, volunteered, will volunteer, vote, voted, will vote, wail, wailed, will wail, present, past, future, wait, waited, will wait, wait, woe, will wait, wander, wandered, will wander, want, wanted, will want, warm, warmed, will warm, warn, warned, will warn, waste, wasted, will waste, watch, watch, will watch, water, watered, will water, wave, wave, will wave, present, past, future, wear, war, will wear, weave, wove, will weave, weigh, weighed, will weigh, welcome, welcomed, will welcome, wine, wind, will wine, whip, whipped, will whip, whisper, whispered, will whisper, whistle, whistled, will whistle, win, won, will win, wind, wound, will wind, present, past, future, wink, winked, will wink, wipe, wipe, will wipe, wish, wished, will wish, wobble, wobbled, will wobble, wonder, wondered, will wonder, work, work, will work, worry, worried, will worry, wrap, wrap, will wrap, rack, rack, will rack, wrestle, wrestled, will wrestle, present, past, future, wriggle, wriggled, will wriggle, X-ray, X-rayed. Will X-ray. Yawn. Yawned. Will yawn. Yell. Yelled. Will yell. Zap. Zap. Will zap. Zip. Zip. Will zip. Zoom. Zoomed. Will zoom.